Hello, Bleacher Report listeners. My name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today, folks, we have another live stream here talking about the Bucs. Today, we're doing a show giving my final thoughts and opinions as to what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be this upcoming season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to sit here. We are going to discuss it and just kind of break down this record overall. So if you guys are ready for that, let me know in the chat what you feel the Tampa Bay Buccaneers record is going to be. I would love to hear that in the chat as well. So folks, let's go ahead and dive right into it. First off, week 1, Sunday, September 8th at 4:25 p.m. You have the Washington Commanders coming in. Now, the Commanders have a lot going for them in terms of just rebuilding their team. They have a new coach. They have a new quarterback. They have a lot going on. Okay, Jaden Daniels, he's going to be the talk of the town. Is he going to start off hot against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially after all the other additions that the Washington Commanders have made in the offseason? I'm going to say no. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a better track record recently against rookie starting quarterbacks the past few years. I think that streak will continue. I like the Buccaneers in this game. It is a home game for them. I feel like that certainly matters as well. And I feel like that they are going to get a win here in week number 1, continue to build a bit of momentum, right? I feel like a lot of people are kind of glazing the Commanders and not really paying a lot of attention to the Bucs here. And I get it. Jaden Daniels is a very popular quarterback. I like what he offers. He could be the franchise guy there for Washington. I think the Bucs are still a better team at this point. So, it's win 1 here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have them winning in week number 1. You then go on to week number 2 against the Detroit Lions. And folks, this is a tough game. This is a really tough game. It's a divisional round rematch here in this game. And I'm going to give it to Detroit. I am. The Bucs are 1-1 right now. And a reason for that, look, you're playing in Detroit. It's not an easy matchup. Detroit has just had the Bucs number the past couple of games these two have played. They beat the Bucs twice last year, once in the playoffs, once in the regular season. It is what it is, right? And I feel like Detroit's just the better team right now. And that's okay. The Bucs aren't the best team in the league, okay? That would be a little bit of a foolish thing to say, in my opinion. But I have the Bucs losing here against the Detroit Lions. Will it be a close game? Possibly. In fact, I might say probably. But I have the Bucs losing here, the Detroit Lions. I think they will just get a bit over on the Bucs here in this matchup, making the Bucs 1-1 going through 2 weeks. You then have the Bucs facing the Denver Broncos in week number 3. I have them winning. I think the Denver Broncos are still a team that's in flux, still a team that is in a rebuild type of situation. Bo Nix might be the starting quarterback there. They are still dealing with the repercussions of releasing Russell Wilson. And I feel like that matters. I feel like that is something that is going to hamper the Broncos. They haven't been able to build really the team that they may want to build going forward. And I think the Buccaneers will be able to take advantage of this. I do have them defeating the Denver Broncos. I do have them being 2-1 through 3 weeks, which isn't bad at all, in my opinion. I just feel like Denver doesn't have enough pieces here to kind of contend with the Bucs. It is another home game for the Bucs. I do have them continuing, some good play here going forward. You beat Washington in week 1. Maybe you're competitive against Detroit in week 2. And then I think you beat the Broncos in week number 3. So I have the Buccaneers at 2-1 here. You then have the Philadelphia Eagles in week number 4. Now, you could argue that this is one of the toughest games to gauge here in this entire season, right? Because what are the Eagles going to look like? We don't fully know. I mean, a lot of people feel like the Eagles are going to bounce back, but the Bucs beat the Eagles last year, and this is a very similar team to what the Bucs played last year. Now there are some changes, right? But the coaching staff stayed the same. Majority of the players stayed the same. The biggest difference being they added Saquon freaking Barkley, right? And I'm torn on this one. I am. I think last time I discussed these records, I gave the Bucs the win. I'm going to give them a loss here. I'm going to give them a loss against Philadelphia. I am going to kind of change some things up. I feel like adding Saquon Barkley adds such a different dynamic to this Eagles offense. And I feel like that will tip the scales for the Eagles. Now, we don't know how Barkley's going to be health-wise in this upcoming game, but like you think about A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley on offense. Still a pretty solid defense, all things considered. Devin White, revenge game, by the way, which but I'm going to give the Bucs a loss here. I just feel like the Eagles have added enough to where it may tip the scales in their favor, and the Bucs are going to be 2-2. You then have the Atlanta Falcons here in week number 5, and it's an away game. I'm going to give the Bucs another loss here. I think Atlanta gets the better of them in round 1 out of 2. In the regular season, I think this is going to be a good learning experience for the Bucs. You go in Thursday night football. I know primetime Kirk is a meme, right? Because the dude can't play in primetime. I get it. But I think that the Falcons are going to get a win here. They may be feeling hot after week 5. Maybe they get to an early start here. I think as the season wears on, I think the Bucs and the Falcons momentum may shift going forward throughout the season. So I will give the Falcons the early win here, but I feel like the Bucs can rebound certainly in the second half of that season. You then have a game against the New Orleans Saints in week number 6. It is at New Orleans. This one's tough for me. I'm going to give them another loss here. I am. Making them 2-4 right now at this point. I feel like these away games are not going to be easy against the Falcons and Saints. And you have a tough 3 stretch here against Philly, against Atlanta, against New Orleans. I'm going to give them another loss. I feel like the Saints still have some fight in them. Now, I don't agree with Dennis Allen and Derek Carr being like the answer over there in New Orleans. I don't think that'll work out. In fact, I'm kind of the opinion that this will be the last year Dennis Allen and Derek Carr are in New Orleans. But I still think they do get a game up on the Bucs here early on, and the Bucs fall to 2-4. It then does not improve against the Baltimore Ravens. I have them having another loss, going to 2-5. Baltimore's a really good team. I think that ultimately, it may be just a bit too much for the Bucs to handle in terms of Lamar, in terms of all that they can do on the offensive level of things. Defensively, they're always sound on defense, and I just feel like they are a bit of a better team than the Bucs, and they will win there. So 2-5. However, I do have them winning against the Atlanta Falcons to move on to 3-5. Again, the Buccaneers get their win back here against Atlanta. I think that they split with Atlanta to raise up to 3-5. I think that it's something that, I can just see happening. I kind of see Atlanta's season hanging on by a thread. I feel like by mid-season, these guys may be broken down a bit more. Some of their guys, Kirk, Judon, Simmons, some of these other guys that they have on their offensive and defensive sides of the ball. And I feel like the Buccaneers will be able to take advantage of that. I feel like they are going to rebound some big momentum here. One thing that I think is really interesting is like the Bucs, whenever they're still down, they can still prove that they can fight back. They were in a very similar situation last year. and I feel like we will see a similar-esque situation. I do have them defeating the Atlanta Falcons here, moving up to 3-5, and kind of going from there. After that, you have a lot of tough decisions. I wanted to have one upset in this record prediction, like a big upset, right? And I want it to be either the Chiefs or the 49ers. I'm going to say the Chiefs. They move up to 4-5. Then they lose to San Francisco, drop to 4-6. I wanted to have one big upset because why not? Fun memes. And I mean, why not the Chiefs, right? The Bucs have beaten the Chiefs before. It is away at Kansas City, but wouldn't that just be like a weird game where you're like, whoa, Baker Mayfield went crazy and like Mahomes and company just like had a really off night and the Bucs somehow get a win? Like, I want to have, some type of upset here. They're riding momentum from beating the Falcons. They get a great win against the Chiefs, and then they drop one against San Francisco, but they're in an okay place going into the Week 11 bye week. Like 4-6 is not bad at all. You then have a couple of games here, Giants, Panthers, Raiders. I would give them wins against all three of those teams to move up to 7-6 at this point. You're at 7-6 so far. I feel like the Giants are a team that's hanging on by a thread. They're just in a situation where like they seem like they're going to be restarting at a lot of different things, quarterback, coach, whatever it may be. So I'm going to give the Bucs a win there. It is away. It is in late November. May play a factor into that, but the Bucs are coming off of a bye week after that. They will be a little bit more refreshed. I think they will be a little bit more prepared. Panthers, the Panthers just aren't a football team this year. They've brought in some pieces, one of which being the former Bucs offensive coordinator, Dave Canales, but I feel like there's still a team that's trying to find their way. I feel like there's still a team that's trying to discover themselves and what their identity should be. So I'll give them the win against the Panthers. Vegas, a very similar situation. Look, I love Antonio Pierce as a head coach. Gardner Minshew's your starting quarterback. And is Aiden O'Connell going to start by week 14? I don't know. It's a possibility. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. I think that's an interesting discussion and an interesting topic. So I have them at 7-6 right now, I believe. Correct? So let's see. Washington Commanders, that's 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, 3-5, 4-5, 4-6 going into the bye week. You come out of the bye week, week 11, 5-6 after beating the Giants, 6-6 after beating the Carolina Panthers, 7-6 after beating the Las Vegas Raiders. So we're at a good spot so far. You then have a couple of games that are kind of tough to call, man. Chargers, Cowboys. How's this going to play out? I think. Oh, golly. It's a tough one. I think they'll beat the Chargers and they'll lose to the Cowboys, making them at this point 8-7. 8-7. I think that this makes sense. Chargers are a weird team right now. They've retained some defensive talent. They don't have like any wide receivers, and they don't have any wide receivers, and their running backs are really injury prone. So who knows who their starting running back will be by this point. I like Harbaugh. That isn't even to say that Los Angeles is a bad team. Like Los Angeles, I think could be a dark horse team to make the playoffs. I trust Harbaugh that much. I think the dude's a beast of a coach. I just think the Bucs will get the better of him. And I don't think that that's overly like, it might, maybe you can kind of view it as a bit of an upset, maybe, but the Chargers are still trying to find their way as a football team as well. They're still kind of in rebuild mode after you got rid of Mike Williams, got rid of Keenan Allen. You almost got rid of Bosa and Khalil Mack. So, like, they're still trying to find their way as a football team. I give them the win. Dallas, you could say the Bucs could beat Dallas, and I think they could, but I just think they get the edge over the Bucs here. Dallas is still a pretty good football team. Maybe people are going to disagree. I think them bringing back Zeke was a great move. I feel like Zeke still has something in the tank and will prove that this year. CeeDee Lamb's a beast. Micah Parsons is just a demon. And I think they'll just get a little one up here on the Bucs. And maybe this is a playoff preview. I don't know. Maybe these guys play each other in round one of the playoffs. To end it off, folks, beat the Carolina Panthers, beat the New Orleans Saints. I think that they sweep the Panthers. I think they split with the Saints. 10-7 is the final record. I think this is what I predicted a long time ago. Not a long time ago, like last month. Some different workarounds and games and whatnot. Or maybe it was the exact same. I don't remember. But they do finish with a 10-7 record. So let's they're 4-6 by the bye week. 5-6 beating the Giants, 6-6 beating the Panthers, 7-6 beating the Raiders, 8-6 beating the Chargers, 8-7 losing to the Cowboys, 9-7 beating the Panthers, 10-7 beating the Saints. In my opinion, I think that would be enough to win the division, and secure another playoff spot. I kind of view the Saints as a team that maybe is like a 7-8 win team, maybe more on 8. I think that the Falcons are a team that could be 9 wins this upcoming season. I think the Falcons look, and that's an improvement for the Falcons. That's 2-win improvement. I just don't believe in Derek Carr and the Saints and Dennis Allen. They've gotten a bit older. They've lost some talent. And I feel like Dennis Allen, that team won't really grow until they lose or they get rid of Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. And I feel like this is still a very winnable division for the Bucs. I really do believe that. The Falcons are still a very beatable team. The Saints are a beatable team. The Panthers are a beatable team. And winning those division games is so important. I have the Bucs going 4-2 in the division. That matters. That really matters. And that's a big part of this. Also, like the second half of this season is so critical for the Bucs' success. Like you need to, in the scenario I've given, you got to beat the Giants, Raiders, Chargers in the second half of your season. Those are some, I'm not saying those are layup games because you never take anybody in the NFL lightly, but like those are very winnable games. Those are games that you can certainly go out there, continue to build momentum for yourself, and continue to fight and keep your NFC South champion streak alive, your playoff streak alive. And in this scenario, I think the Bucs do that. I do. Now, could they crumble at like a 2-5 record and just completely fall flat? They could, but they were in a similar situation last year and they didn't crumble. They rose to the occasion. And I could be completely wrong. They may get to 10-7 a different way. But I do feel good about 10-7. Any way you kind of slice it. That I would say the floor for this team, I would say absolute rock bottom. You're like 6-11. Or you're like 6-11. The floor, like a reasonable floor, I think is 8-9. 9-8, 10-7. That's where you're like, okay, that I could see that team being there. I think 7-10, 8-9 as a floor is not a crazy thing to say. Kind of 9-8, 10-7 as a ceiling isn't too bad. I think rock bottom is like not rock bottom. Hitting a bottom is like 6-11, 5-12. That's where you're like, oh boy, there's going to be some really big decisions made here. So I went with more of the ceiling for the Bucs. But I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts and opinions about this. Second half of that schedule is huge, man. My final record prediction is 10-7. And that's it from me. Again, guys, my name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And hey, if you guys love talking about football, right, you can do so here on the Bleacher Report app, be it MLB, or sorry, not just NFL or in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but any sport, MLB, NBA, anything that you guys want to, NHL, anything that you guys want to talk about here on the Bleacher Report app, you can do so here on this app. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm happy to be here, guys. Again, my name is James Hill. As always, folks, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream here. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. Go Bucs.